I'm Jenna Ludlow, and I'm gonna help you dress to kill.
Dress to kill. Too bad she didn't get to help Munch.
Are you insulting my sartorial splendor?
Well, if that means clothes, yes.
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
All right, guys, welcome back to yet another Munch My Benson with Adam and Josh. My name is Adam. I'm in an extremely steamy and hot Galveston, Texas. Josh is on the line with me. How you doing out there, Josh?
I'm peachy.
Well, guys, we have a really fun episode for you this week. Before we get there, though, you got anything to talk about? You been watching anything fun?
I watched Wind Talkers this morning.
That's really fun. We'll get into that in a little bit, I bet.
Yeah.
I've been watching this really twisted German time travel show called Dark on Netflix. It's really good. Highly recommend it if you're into that sort of thing.
I've had it recommended to me by a lot of people.
It's got some good stuff going on. Now, there's one irritating thing they do at the kind of near the end of every episode. They do like a music video segment where there's some cheesy song played and they all kind of wistfully do something for 5 minutes. And that gets a little bit tiresome, but overall the show's excellent.
Every episode ends like an episode of Scrubs?
Kinda, yeah. Kind of like an episode of Scrubs, or I don't know if you watch Twin Peaks The Return, but they do this in Twin Peaks The Return also, where every episode has a scene at the Roadhouse and a band plays, although that's done differently, so it works better there. I don't want to beat around the bush, because I feel like we have a ton to talk about with this episode of SVU that we just watched. It's called Trade. It is from Season 9, Episode 18, and my goodness, things happen in it. So you want to give us the recap of this before we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing?
Absolutely. A prego personal stylist to the wannabe business stars turns up dead with her panties around her ankles in her apartment, which just so happens to be on fire when she's found. The fire didn't kill Jenna Ludlow, though, because there weren't no soot in them there nose holes, so her ticket got punched by the blunt force trauma fairy by way of a lamp lying beside her. We quickly find that she'd been getting some of that sweet Liechtenstein Skrilla injected into her personal accounts via an offshore sugar daddy, and the Vicks Angel Healer on retainer points the unit to the Eastern Commodities Exchange, where we jump right into the douche canoe to travel up the ass of a paisley suspender-wearing coffee trader with his own custom cupping spoon to taste coffee at the exchange, named Pearson Bartlett. We eventually find out that our victim was the worst kind of victim, a gold digger, and that even worse, she had fun on spring break in Cancun. Pearson Bartlett Jr. had planted his seed inside our Vic, but Daddy says he was in Brazil, where all them sweet, sweet beans be. PJ lands in the Bartlett family PJ, but the jig is up because everyone knows his dad tossed him on a commercial flight to Aruba, where the trusty old jet could swing by and pick him up the next day to make it look like he'd been abroad at the time of Jenna's departure. PJ and Pops get separately interrogated when Benson and Stabler think they've got it all figured out, surmising that PJ killed her while they argued about a prenup. PJ's lawyer friend comes in and is incensed that they're interrogating her client/friend. As she's pulling him out of questioning, the entire world finds out that the bun in Jenna's oven was going to be PJ's little brother. Yup. His dad knocked up his fiancée. Son punches father, father defenestrates son. Shit got messy. Then we find out that Jenna knew about a major deal the company was working on in El Salvador to secure a plantation. The Bartletts insist that the $10,000 a month Jenna was being wired wasn't hush money, that it was for the baby. But Novak cruelly breaks the news that PJ's got the funky sperm and wasn't gonna knock up anyone ever, because that's what you do in a courtroom, I guess? Then Pops nonsensically starts to freak out in the courtroom while PJ says he doesn't know if his dad did or didn't kill Jenna. It sorta doesn't look good for Papa Bartlett, though it's hard to see how Novak has cleared the hurdle of proving anyone's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in this trial. Novak is so sure that she should have gotten a guilty verdict from the jury that when there's a mistrial by way of hung jury, she knows something was amiss. We very quickly find out that a juror received $50K to hold out as a vote for innocence. The PI who paid her off has ties to the Bartletts. PJ points the finger at Pops, but hot lawyer Avery Hemmings stops SVU from torching Pops' safe. Pops takes a chopper to the precinct to tell them that PJ has a violent streak. The Bartletts are turning on each other, all bets are off, and no window in Manhattan is safe. Then Stabler figures out that there should have been a camera somewhere in the evidence inventory of Jenna's burned-out apartment, but there isn't one. We go back to the burned-out apartment location for a third time, and they find an SD card in a coffee can and another camera in the wall. Did the camera catch who did it? We'll find out at the end of the episode. So that's the recap. I really feel like we can't talk about the ending right off the bat. We have to save that. It's a doozy.
It's so good. It's so good.
Holy shit.
I also feel like I can't fully talk about the intro without talking about the ending, though, because I think you have to understand the perspective of the perp to really understand how bizarre the crime is.
But we discover all of the things about the crime as the episode goes.
It's true.
I think we can not talk about the ending and still traipse through this fucking delightful episode of SVU because there's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. I mean, like, I'm right now kind of going, where do I start? I counted like 6 delightful bit parts in this one. Just delightful small parts.
Yeah.
The fire inspector, Heaven Moskowitz, the angel communicator.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the angel healer?
Yeah, so good.
I think we just need to start at the beginning and go through this step by step because almost every scene has so much to unpack that if we don't do it in order...
The fire is so intense.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was in Backdraft again, you know?
I have that note also. I have the note, in the midst of a solid minute in which firefighters are fighting a blaze, the camera takes our attention to a pair of panties around the ankle of a person without a pulse in an apartment that could double for a set in Backdraft. But not before we get a dose of latent misogyny in the firefighters in the form of Lieutenant Eigel saying, "Let's get it done, ladies," to his crew about to work the blaze.
No, I really was wondering where Billy Baldwin was in the crew, and then, yeah.
Well, he set the fire, right? Isn't he the firebug?
Exactly. What a zoom in on the panties around the ankles, though. Like, that was cinema.
Mid-fire, just to drive the point home that this is an SVU episode.
So we get the panties around the feet.
Yeah.
Just an excellent throwaway shot at the beginning. You know, usually you have an episode being a Finn episode, or a Munch episode, or a Benson episode. This is clearly the O'Halloran episode.
Oh, yeah. O'Halloran's all over this motherfucker. It's great.
Everywhere in this episode, and he just owns it. He is so good throughout the whole thing. He's doing all the heavy lifting. He's the one figuring out that there's a prenuptial agreement that might be problematic. He's the one figuring out that there's an El Salvadoran coffee plantation deal going down that might be problematic. He's the one who's about to crack into the safe and is just standing there with the lit cutting torch.
Oh,
so
yeah.
good.
I love that so much. It really, hit home that this is a big O'Halloran episode when he had the torch in hand. And it's like, oh, fuck, he's been all over this one. His fingerprints are everywhere.
Like, he's in the background of that scene, but I couldn't even look at Benson while O'Halloran's standing there. He's, standing there going, am I supposed to cut? Am I not supposed to cut? What am I doing here?
With the torch lit. What the fuck, guys? Well, he's got blue balls, too, because he really wants to cut that fucking safe open.
Dude, who wouldn't? It looked awesome. The next really great performance comes in the form of Eddie Brancato, the fire chief, played by PJ Benjamin. He's hamming it up.
Oh, yeah, he's fantastic.
He says things like, all good things must come to an end. As he introduces himself. And then he says, when asked what caused the fire, he says, it's in the air, detective. The nose knows. I mean, this guy killed it.
And then, of course, we find out the accelerant was fucking sterno, which hits really close to home for both of us.
Yeah.
As we had our job burned down on Christmas Day, 8 years ago.
2012, yeah.
Yeah. We had our job burned down on Christmas Day of 2012. Some fucking homeless kid had broken into our boat and started a fire that lit the drapes on fire.
Yeah. Drapes on fire with the sterno.
With the sterno, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, only this time it wasn't to hide a crime. It was to keep warm, supposedly.
If this episode of SVU had not been this fun, I probably would have had some PTSD flashbacks.
Yeah, seriously.
From every 32-ounce High Life shower beer that I was drinking during that time.
So, I don't even know where to go here because, okay, we could talk about Adam Beach.
Let's first talk about how funny it was that Warner was at the scene and was able to just, cut to the chase and tell them, hey, she hadn't inhaled anything. There was no soot in her nostrils.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like she would be there right then. Seems like you might need to do an actual autopsy before you learn that, but whatever.
And this, of course, is also the scene where Stabler, Benson, and Warner very quickly established that the lamp found by her body was the likely source of the blunt force trauma of Jenna's head, and we find out that not only were fluids present in the pelvic exam, which was apparently done right there out in the open, but Jenna had a bun in the oven.
Yeah, all of those notes came, they weren't later on when we're back at the lab, right?
This is in the cold open.
Yeah.
This is all in the cold open. I think the bun in the oven is the moment that, okay, well, now we're going to the credits, and then we come back from commercial if you were watching on TV. And then we have the appearance of Adam Beach as Detective Chester Lake.
First time we see him so far in Munch My Benson.
Yeah, because he's in 2 episodes at the end of season 8, and then he's in season 9 as a detective on the unit.
He's a really good actor, and he's been in a lot of really good stuff.
We will talk about Adam Beach.
Don't worry.
Because we both love Lake.
We're beachheads. Yeah.
Yeah, we're beachheads.
I guess we find out about the website that Jenna has.
Yes.
I have a lot of notes about the website.
We get a glimpse of Jenna's hustle. Personal stylist to rich fucks on a budget. Or I guess to wannabe rich fucks on a budget.
Yeah.
I found a site where Jenna advertised her services.
This discount suit costs $250 at Morty's Suits for less. But with my personal touch, you can look like you spent $2,000. Size doesn't matter, guys. Size of your budget, that is. I'm Jenna Ludlow, and I'm gonna help you dress to kill.
Dress to kill. Too bad she didn't get to help Munch.
She says size doesn't matter, and then she snaps the tie like it's
No, she does that after the dress to kill.
Yeah.
That's in the beat between dress and to kill.
But she snaps this tie like it's either like a dominatrix whip or like a noose that she's tying tight around somebody's neck. It's a very suggestive hand movement.
We really learn a lot about her in a few short sentences.
Which she can make a cheap suit look expensive by putting a cheap purple tie next to it. That's what we find out.
Well, basically we learn that 1, she's a size queen. 2, she's comfortable trafficking in the double entendre.
Yeah.
3, she even helps pores look good.
Yeah.
And 4, she says things on tape that portend her demise.
She sure does. Yeah, she sure does. And she's definitely into some rough play. I think that's implied with that tie snap.
I really liked Lake's little drop-in line here, the dress
so
to kill.
good.
Too bad she didn't get to help Munch. It's fucking delightful.
Yeah, really good. Really good, like, banter. It's sad because it's the only thing he gets to do, but it's a really good dig at Munch.
Yeah, they never figured out what to do with Lake, and that's why they wrote him off the show.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it seems like they're never comfortable when they have 5 detectives.
Yeah, they need everyone to be working in a pair off of each other.
Mm-hmm, which I'm sure they could have figured it out if they really wanted to, but I kind of get that. That the way they have it set up, everybody's very partnered off.
If they had Benson and Stabler working on their own, they were probably big enough characters that they could have paired off everybody else.
Yeah.
That's not what they did.
Or like had one of Benson or Stabler be alone in each episode and then have the 5th cast member going with the other one, something like that. But instead, you're right. They always have them together and they'll have Blake out on his own.
Even though Lake is Finn's partner.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, Lake is Finn's partner because Finn doesn't want to work with fucking Munch anymore.
That's right. That's why they brought him in. Yeah. But then they don't do very many Finn episodes in this season, if I remember correctly. But we also find out in this scene that she'd been getting 10 large wired in from Liechtenstein every month. I have a couple little notes about Liechtenstein. It's always been a big favorite of mine because it is such a tiny country. This one is a huge tax haven. It has more registered companies than citizens, and it's where, the really kind of elite level transnational scumbags hide their wealth from taxation, like Russian oil barons, Saudi royals, British publishers, things like that. So it's believable that these 4th generation coffee traders would be hiding their cash there. It is not a liberal constitutional monarchy the way most European countries are. The prince there has the power to veto any law or dismiss any government or minister. And my favorite factoid about it, this is something I knew before I did a little dive into it. It's the only extant piece of the Holy Roman Empire that's still in existence. It was founded in 1719 as part of the Holy Roman Empire. It became a sovereign state in 1806 when the Holy Roman Empire fell to Napoleon. And after that, it was closely tied to Austria-Hungary until that nation collapsed during World War I. So now it's been in a customs and monetary union with Switzerland for decades. And basically, all it does is offer offshore banking to rich fucks. That's the only purpose of it.
Basically like the Isle of Man.
Exactly. Just with less land area. Yeah, I think it's much smaller than Luxembourg, smaller than Andorra, the other ones that are also fun. So that's that.
Then, oh my god, the other expense that they can trace is to Heaven Moskowitz.
Yeah, I want to say one thing about this before we jump in. The other great thing about this episode is there are puns just littered throughout this. You cannot take a step in this episode without getting pun all over your shoes.
Oh, yeah.
And so at this time when we find the really clue that kind of breaks open this case is they say, go to heaven, Heaven Moskowitz. And then Liv says,
Heaven only knows who Jenna was sleeping with.
There's so many puns throughout the whole thing. It's just like up and down puns.
This is easily the pun-heaviest episode we've done.
Heaven Moskowitz is the angel healer. She does a great job. She's played by Cleo Lewis, who I guess her biggest role, she was in Pepper Ann for a long time. She was also in Perfect Stranger, not the TV show that you might think of.
The movie with Bruce Willis and Halle Berry.
Yeah, exactly. But she does a great job as the angel healer.
I really love Munch in this scene. Like, this is just a scene that you need to watch because it's so insane. I mean, she talks to angels.
She tries to claim doctor-patient privilege to avoid divulging the information that Jenna gave her in their sessions together, but
her angels didn't tell her that Jenna is dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And she believes that it's impossible because her guardian angel was looking out for her and it was before her time.
I did like how it's okay to divulge privileged information if you pretend that, like, the angels are telling you to do it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so Cleopatra, who is one of the angels, tells Heaven.
Presumably that Cleopatra, former lover of Caesar and bride of Mark Antony.
Perhaps. Could just be a cat, too. Could be a cat angel. We don't know.
Could be Cleopatra Jones.
Yeah, it could be Cleopatra Jones. Anyway, so Cleopatra tells Heaven that Munch and Finn should check the commodities exchange. And they send someone to the commodities exchange.
I know.
This is an episode of SVU where they're following leads from angels.
Yep. Well, I mean, obviously, the way I read it is she's trying to maintain a little bit of plausible deniability so she doesn't have to tell her other clients that she's screwing them over.
But that's if I don't know.
Yeah.
There might be an actual angel telling her.
It's possible.
But yeah, so they send someone. This is a lead? Does SVU follow leads given to them by angels now?
Apparently they do.
So then the guy who's leading them through the exchange, when
he's like the security guard, like chief of the exchange.
He's shorter than Michael.
He's so short. He's tiny. He needs more specific information to know which Pearson they're talking about.
Because there are a lot on the
There's
floor.
There's so many guys named Pearson.
Of the Eastern Commodities Exchange. Okay, so enter Stephen Collins, Reverend Camden from the long-running Christian propaganda family dramedy, Seventh Heaven, who was presumably using this episode of SVU and his two appearances as Bruce Mathis on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and the year following Seventh Heaven's cessation to wash his hands of the uber-Christian machine he started.
Yeah, he's trying to grit himself up just in time for his sexual misconduct allegations.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, this makes so much more sense given his fall from grace. If you don't know, Stephen Collins, in 2014, admitted to 3 separate cases of inappropriate sexual conduct with 3 female minors, occurring in 1973, 1982, and 1994, the first and last cases coming while he was married.
Yeah.
Oddly, he has no credits after 2014.
Funny how that works out.
Yeah. He admitted this all in an interview with People magazine.
He did, yeah. It was an interview with People magazine.
Super weird.
There was another one. He did like a 60 Minutes also, I think, with Katie Couric that went into it. And apparently he apologized in person to one of the women involved and then was told that it might not be a great idea to try to reach out to the other ones. But apparently he has shown contrition and not made like a awkward attempt at a comeback. So it's a strange case. He definitely does not seem like it was okay, but at the same time, at least he's not trying to push it under the rug and pretend like it wasn't that big of a deal like some people in the entertainment industry have been over the last few years.
Like Kevin Spacey, maybe?
Yeah, maybe Kevin Spacey.
Maybe.
Louis C.K., maybe.
Yeah.
Others. Bill Cosby.
Anyways,
back to the show.
So, his outfit in this scene is a pattern clash disaster. He's got a pinstripe shirt, a weird grid pattern tie, but it's not just a grid, it's got, like, things in the grid. And then there's that fucking obnoxious pair of pseudo-paisley suspenders. It's really, really obnoxious.
There's a lot going on visually there. Yeah. He also has some big-ass cufflinks in all the scenes he's in.
And that douchey fucking cupping spoon.
Oh, yeah. You hate the cupping spoon, but it just looks like a normal cupping spoon. That's what they all look like.
He's got it on a fucking chain.
Yeah, that's...
on like a wallet chain.
If you're the kind of guy that gets into cupping, that's where you keep it.
This guy's a pervert.
You gotta quaff the aromas.
You don't walk around with a cupping spoon unless you're a total pervert.
I mean, yes, this is abundantly true. I don't think you also walk around with it if you're a commodities trader, but we'll get there in a little bit. Because my New York State of Mind piece this week is going to be about the coffee business and commodities trading a little bit. Because they do research, but not quite enough research in this episode to actually get it right.
Oh, no, not nearly enough. No. Yeah, I've got real problems with this, but we'll get into it, like, when we get to the Munch scene.
Well, yeah, we'll do that. That's a good place to talk about some of this stuff.
That's where, like, all of that is bundled in at one moment right there.
Yeah, I mean, because I have a lot of notes about the coffee business. Yeah, they definitely get it kind of weird. Now, this is where we find out that the kid was not in country. He was, quote, in Brazil, which makes sense.
We also have that really gross line of
where
he's hitting on Benson.
Such a great line.
That we're going to drop in right here.
Yeah, such a great line. Oh my God. Made me feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Mr. Bartlett.
Hold on, last cup. Great body.
Excuse me?
The coffee. But I'll bet yours is smooth and robust. I didn't catch your name?
Detective Benson, I'm Detective Stabler.
Definitely not the thing you say to a police detective who's coming to interview you.
And this happened a year after Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
A year after he ardently protected the honor of his daughters and scared off every fucking suitor possible.
Now, a full 6 years before his sexual misconduct allegations came forward, but he had, of course, committed all of the deeds at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, such a gross line. I want to take a shower after that.
Yeah, I was totally grossed out. Not cool, Reverend Camden. Anyway, so then we go back to the precinct.
No, before we get there, we go talk to Warner and O'Halloran again. And I have a note here.
Okay.
Because Warner is walking through a hallway with an evidence bag. And there's a funny line here about O'Halloran that comes up. But first, she says that they knew that she was trying to keep the baby because she had folic acid supplements in her system. And so, of course, my wife is a obstetrician. So I asked her if that makes sense. And she says all women of childbearing age should take folic acid supplements, but yes, it is true that most only start taking them after they find out they're pregnant. So it does ring true. Not necessarily the sort of thing you could say with the certainty that Warner says it, but it does sort of ring true.
Right.
But there's a really funny line where they ask Warner if she has a lunch date with Ryan, and then O'Halloran smirks when they open the door, and then she says,
Got a lunch date with Ryan?
Special delivery.
Okay, so then we get back to the precinct.
A lot of notes here.
Back to the unit. Jen is passed as a job-hopping temp, always on the move, looking for a rich husband is on earth. She even sued a Park Avenue surgeon who she'd been engaged to for breach of promise after he broke it off. Then we find out, per Munch.
Girl went wild. Jenna logged a lot of hours at spring break. Apparently she's into girl-on-girl action.
There's so much bullshit.
Yeah, there's so much. First, I want to talk about what Finn is wearing in this scene, because...
Okay. There was so much other shit going on that I missed what Finn's outfit was.
I just happened to freeze frame while I was taking a note, on his outfit, and it's pretty ridiculous. He has this extremely poofy leather jacket that makes him look about, 4 sizes bigger than he actually is, and he's a big guy. It's this, black patent leather jacket with this sewn-in diamond check pattern, which is very visually stunning, I guess is the word to say. It's not good, but he also had a big, fat, white gold chain and a black mock turtleneck underneath. It was a strong look, a strong Finn look. He's kind of been in, rugby shirt, long sleeve t-shirt mode a lot recently in the episodes we've seen, so I'm always happy to get back to a classic done-up Finn look. This is when Munch says, apparently she's into girl-on-girl action.
So there's the obvious slut-shaming inherent in vilifying a girl who had fun at spring break. More importantly, the show presents these photos as having come from her website.
This is her business webpage, which admittedly is not a very professional looking website. It looks like it was put together in about 5 minutes by somebody using very strange fonts and color choices, but
by the graphics department.
Yeah, really, really poor looking website. But holy shit, did the second unit have fun on the shoot?
Oh man.
This is her business website.
Yeah.
And these are the 3 photos they find on the website. They all say Cancun spring break as the tagline.
Oh, God. One of the fucking photos where she's having booze, poured from the bottle into her mouth says, "Yes, I swallow."
Yes, yeah, it does. Yeah. No, okay, so the first photo it says, "Yes, I swallow" over it, and it is 3 dudes cheering while a girl who's sort of partially off screen is pouring rum straight from the bottle into Jenna's gaping mouth as she's lying back on a table wearing a string bikini. In the next...
I will say, I think we need to say that the art department failed the second unit here because there's nothing about where these photos are taken that screams Cancun at all.
I know. I mean, it looks like it was in a shitty dive bar in Brooklyn somewhere.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't need to be photorealistic, but I don't know, print off a backdrop of Cancun and it doesn't matter that it doesn't look super real. It's going to look better than these.
Yeah, put one of the 3 douchebags in the background wearing one of those tourist sombreros that every gaping idiot like that would be wearing in Cancun while
And
they're
a
getting
Senior
wasted.
Frog shirt.
Exactly. Now, the next photograph, we have Jenna leaning in to kiss another blonde girl while two of the dudes from the first pic look on. And the dudes are arranged in a very strange way. One of them is smiling, I guess like he would be, but he's looking up from this very strange and uncomfortable angle, like he's like lying on the floor to stare upwards at these two women who are about to make out for his own enjoyment. And the other guy in this photo, though, is the one that I was really interested in because he's just looking forward, shocked, like he's like terrified of what's going on in front of him. He's not happy. He doesn't look like he's turned on. He just looks stunned.
He's very Christian.
Yeah. And then, okay, more about the art department failing here, because in pic number 3, it's another one. This time, Jenna's pouring the same kind of brown liquor from pic 1 over her tits into the other girl's mouth. But in the background of this photograph, there's a purple bra and moose antlers, which nothing screams Cancun spring break like moose antlers.
Indeed. Okay, so if we're looking at our website, what section were these pictures under?
I know.
So the sections she has on the website are personal story, video, clients, portfolio, and contact.
Yeah.
How are these photos on that website in one of those sections?
Where is Cancun spring break?
This is her personal story?
Why can't they just have like her like My Face page or whatever like they usually do, you know?
Yeah, it's really baffling why they included these pictures on her website as if someone who's trying to court the elite.
Who's gonna hire her to be their, you know...
She's gonna present this?
Yeah, to be their like wardrobe person. Totally insane.
Oh, God. Right after this, don't they go out to the airstrip?
Yeah, this is where they go to the airstrip and they haul the guys in.
They arrest them because if they don't, they're afraid that they're both going to flee the country.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. No, they talked to the air traffic controller guy a little bit earlier. He was another one of those good bit parts that shone through.
He may even not be an under 5. He might have had 5 full lines.
I know.
Yeah.
The thing about that guy, though, I think that was his only over 5 in his whole career. But
Probably.
He did well in this one. I thought he definitely could have been a character actor all over the place.
Yeah, I liked him here. He describes that their plane could fly from New York to Tokyo on a tank of gas.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Benson and Stabler are freaked out that father and son are just going to fucking hightail it.
That's obviously what they were doing.
They arrest them, and then when they get back, Novak's like, what the fuck are we holding them on? We're just going to have to release these guys. We don't have anything we can charge them with. So way more time has passed than actually would have passed, because they pick them up on the airstrip. It's daylight. And then they're in the police station, and they're saying it's 2 and then 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense that they would be, like, freezing these guys out.
It's like high noon also when they're...
It's very light out. It is not dusk.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like fading light of day, long shadows kind of.
No.
But yeah, they have them in there. Apparently processing takes a long time sometimes. And it takes Munch about 3 minutes to get to the precinct. Novak says, call Munch in. Wake him up.
So I believe at that point it's 2 a.m. and then it's 4 a.m. later. There's a 2-hour block of time there.
Yeah.
Him getting into this precinct quickly is more excusable than them still being at the precinct at 2 a.m., especially when they're worth $250 million.
This scene gets really fun. A lot of fun things happen here. So when Munch stumbles in, he's half dressed. He looks like absolute shit. Really good Belzer performance on this one.
Yeah.
And Novak's trying to get him to interview them, and he's like,
Sergeant Munch, would you take the Bartletts up to the lounge, please?
Yeah, but can I put on a pot of coffee first for the love of all things holy?
and so then we go upstairs, and what might be, I don't know, there's so many good scenes in this one, it's hard to pick, but a extremely fun scene occurs.
This is the most upsetting scene to me. But go ahead.
Munch and the two coffee traders exchange notes about the precinct house coffee. And you have Stephen Collins and Matthew Davis, Matt Davis, who plays PJ.
He was Alaric in Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, the only Ostrogothic Jew, Alaric Saltzman. But yeah. Sorry. That name makes me laugh. So they are up there sipping this coffee that came out of whatever hell machine they use in the SVU precinct house to make coffee.
Well, the machine's surely a bun.
You think?
Yeah, it's surely one of those bun drip makers, but they're using the worst coffee ever, I'm sure.
Even if they are, though, they have a strange idea of how you make coffee.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of parts that go into a good cup of coffee.
Uh-huh.
First, you have the roast of the beans, and you have, as they say, the ratio of water water to beans. That is important, but the grind of the beans is extremely important. The rate at which the water flows through those beans, the temperature of the water, all of these things matter enormously.
It's so fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
So the conversation reaches a fever pitch for me when fucking Pearson Bartlett Sr. says this high acid crap, and then like there's a little break, and says, is so vile, we won't even trade it on the exchange. And it's like, you fucking dope. The acidity isn't necessarily inherent to the bean.
Exactly. It's the brewing process.
On the exchange, they're trading green beans mostly, so the acidity is mostly related to the roast.
Exactly.
The darker the roast, the less acidity. The lighter the roast, the more acidity. It has nothing to do with the beans, which is what they're fucking trading. They're not trading roasted beans on the fucking exchange.
But it does have to do with the length of the pour. That can affect the acidity considerably. If you over pour or under pour the coffee, it's going to affect the acidity.
But it doesn't have to do with the beans, usually.
No.
That's all post-growth. There's not that much variance in acidity from one bean to the next. I mean, there's some, but that's not the big factor that makes the acidity be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, now these could be cheap Robusto beans going in there.
Presumably it is.
Yeah, it's possible you could sense that from the sip of the coffee that Munch, who doesn't look like a guy who knows how to make a great cup of joe, just made at 2:30 in the morning.
But, I mean, we need to commend Munch for going down to the Learning Annex and taking a coffee appreciation course.
Munch took a coffee appreciation course.
Yeah, so, okay. His complaint was that it was a bunch of barista wannabes. Who the fuck do you think is going to a coffee appreciation class?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to learn there? How to make a cup of coffee? It's easy. You breathe the can on Folgers and you put the amount in and then you brew the coffee. If that's all you're trying to do, Munch.
Okay, so he asks, what goes into a really good cup of joe?
Mm-hmm.
And then fucking Stephen Collins says...
Doesn't give him an answer. He doesn't give him an answer.
No, he just said, oh, it's so frustrating. He says that it starts with a right water to bean ratio. Then he cops out with an utterly meaningless, you can't rush the process.
There's like...
Motherfucker.
There's actually a limited number of things that go into a good cup of coffee. It's getting the grind of your beans right. It's getting the roast of your beans right. It is getting the amount of water right, but also the temperature of the water and the rate at which it flows. That's about it. And if you can...
Try drinking a cup of coffee out of your French press where you've put pre-ground for drip coffee into that fucking...
You got to be careful that you're not going to like burst your French press open when you press it.
Yeah.
Which is something you could do.
I mean, you're basically going to be drinking a cup of dirt.
Yeah, it's going to taste like diesel fuel with dirt in the bottom of it.
I really have so many complaints about this.
I have a whole segment coming up after we get through this about coffee.
Yeah, let's talk about coffee later. I'm so angry about all of this because it's just nonsense. But, okay, I do want to say that, again, a commodities exchange would primarily be trading unroasted green beans.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start with him, he's drinking coffee with that fucking cup and
Oh, yeah.
But are we to believe that the lot that was produced at the point of origin, that they then roasted it and sent it to the exchange?
Again, they did a little bit of research on what commodities traders do, but not enough to actually know what they do. So let's just hold off on more coffee talk for now.
Yeah.
We'll talk coffee. It's funny.
We'll reform the coffee clutch later.
It's funny because, I'm thinking back to the classic SNL bit from the 70s, the coffee talk. I guess that's was that a Dana Carvey bit?
It's Mike Myers.
Oh, it was a Mike Myers bit. Thank you.
I think.
I think you're right.
Didn't he call it a coffee clutch all the time?
He probably did. But one of the things they talk about in the coffee talk is that the Holy Roman Empire is neither Holy Roman nor an empire. So got a little bit of that going on. Anyways, let's keep moving.
Okay, so there's the prenup bit that O'Halloran discovers the prenup.
Mm-hmm.
We cut from Munch with the father and son to Stabler and Benson going to O'Halloran, who has also been called in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives them the first bit of evidence that he's recovered from the fire, where he has smashed a bunch of ash and paper in between some stuff and was able to pull a burned portion of a prenup.
Some Dead Sea Scrolls shit going on there with O'Halloran.
Right. Yeah. The prenup is a nice little misdirect because we instantly have Michelle Borth of Tell Me You Love Me, Hawaii Five-0 and Shazam fame, breaking things up, telling them they're no longer questioning her friend, or is it client?
Yeah.
So on their way out the door, Warner comes in with the Act 2 fetal bomb drop. That kid, it's not PJ's. So
talking about the prenup with O'Halloran, Liv says,
PJ was bringing home the coffee, wanted to protect his beans.
So another classic pun. Multiple puns in one sentence. Before we get here, because, huge bomb drops. And at this point, I just got to say, how many laws do the Bartletts break while they're under investigation for Jenna's murder? Because there's a lot going on. Obviously, they both get charged with obstruction of justice for attempting to flee, and in one case, actually fleeing the country. That's kind of a big deal. I think that's a federal crime, right?
There's assault, but they'd have to press charges against one another.
Would they, though? I mean, because they're actually being witnessed by multiple police officers.
I think you still have to press charges, don't you?
I'm not sure, but this is the thing that has me questioning. Because, yes, what Josh is saying. So we find out that PJ is not the father of the baby.
That it was his dad.
That it was the dad. It was Stephen Collins.
Who says that I was drunk, she came on to me or something to that effect.
Uh-huh. He said that one believably, almost as if he'd said it before at least 3 times.
Yep. And then the son hauls off and fucking just punches dad right in the fucking face.
This is the first out of nowhere amazing action sequence in this episode.
Yep.
Where just like things are going along normally and then just all of a sudden Matt Davis just hauls off and slugs Stephen Collins in the face. And it's just like, damn. And then Stephen Collins turns around.
Then he turns around and throws his fucking son's head through a fucking window.
Through a plate glass window.
In the precinct. Son's bleeding all over the place.
Shocking.
They are separated.
Shocking.
Yeah, shit gets really real here.
It gets so real. So, that's a lot of fun. I say, holy shit, the PJ punch. Outstanding.
Is this where the Richie Rich and Daddy Starbucks line is dropped also?
They drop that line. Yeah, Richie Rich and Daddy Starbucks. Then there's the, not only was Jenna going to have your baby, she was threatened to spill the beans on your deal. Oh, this is when we find out about the deal. Okay, so the next scoop from O'Halloran is that there's another document.
So that's the act break. And then we jump to the hospital and father and son have already patched it up. So Benson and Stabler are like reading the scene and knowing, okay, well, they've already fucking rallied around each other. So we have to go back to the scene and see if there's anything we missed.
And they kind of do a really strange, like, they do not check it lightly. They kind of destroy the scene while they're looking around it. Oh, no, that's later. Because they go back to the scene multiple times.
They're back at the scene 3 different times.
They don't do a very thorough initial investigation of the crime scene, which I think is kind of funny.
Okay, so they go back looking for clues, but it's mostly like burned up shit.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to assume that O'Halloran would know that you can do all this shit, and he obviously is doing all that stuff on his own volition. But like Benson and Stabler, they know fuck all about being able to like recover burned out evidence and shit like this. This is a really O'Halloran intensive episode.
Sure is.
For a reason.
But O'Halloran finds another document this time. It's like an email describing a coffee plantation sale in El Salvador that apparently
they have these great hybrid Arabica beans.
They sure do. It's a new Arabica hybrid, mild, low caffeine, class 1 quality. Again, we're getting to this later. I'm very upset about there's no discussion of terroir, Josh. No terroir. And anyways, I'll calm down. So we get a great line that says that she was threatening to spill the beans on your deal. And now a note I have, the time elapsed between the crime, which happened in June, and the trial, which happened in August, was almost believable. Probably not entirely accurate, but more than the usual, like, 2 days that happens on an SVU.
Yeah. We make the jump basically from them finding the email about the plantation to straight to the courtroom. But it's presumably a very sizable jump in time.
Now, the pace of action kind of picks up. We're in the courtroom. We know that one of these guys...
It's already moving pretty fast. It just slams the fucking foot on the pedal.
It sure does. And at this point, we know that one of these guys is going to go down for the murder, but we really don't know which one. I mean, it makes either one of them have a strong case. PJ was there the night of the crime, but then left to go to Aruba, and Dad clearly has some things he needs to hide, so it totally makes sense. Then you've also got this attorney who just kind of keeps showing up and is a little too friendly for an SVU attorney, but we'll get back to her in a little bit. Now, there's some fun moments in the courtroom. I have one exchange.
I don't know that they're fun so much as, wow, Novak's fucking terrible.
I know. You can't say this shit. Like, I have a whole exchange. Like, you cannot say this shit as the prosecuting attorney in a courtroom. You cannot say...
When I pulled the audio for this episode, it's like a fucking minute 10 clip, and it's like with jump cuts, and she's just fucking terrible to him, and she doesn't even know if he did it.
I know.
Jenna didn't get knocked up until late March by your father. PJ, I got more news for you. People's 18. The report from the lab on the semen found inside Jenna's body. DNA testing confirms fluids are from Pearson Bartlett Jr. Note that sperm are immotile. PJ, did you know that you were shooting blanks?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
You're wrong.
I'm sorry, PJ, you've just got funky sperm. Jenna was pretending she was pregnant because you couldn't deliver the goods. But then she figured, hey, why settle for you when I can bang daddy and really rake it in?
Your Honor, please. She's testifying.
Jenna loved me.
I don't think it's... And he doesn't know this. This is not something he knows. So she is doing this to him while he is on the fucking stand in front of dozens of fucking strangers. She's sperm count shaming him in front of dozens of strangers. And he's a pretty high profile person. It's fucking shocking that she would do this.
He's either going to be your perpetrator or your primary material witness. I mean, you need to know who he is one way or the other. I would say the judge just has zero control over her courtroom because Stephen Collins is standing up shouting stuff like for minutes on end. That is not happening in any courtroom I've had the pleasure to be in.
Also, he shouts at his son who's on the stand 2 or 3 times. And you're just sitting there like, wait, this guy's supposed to be worth $250 million and he can't keep his shit together in the fucking courtroom? We're used to seeing this sort of behavior from fucking totally insane people. Maybe, and I mean, you probably have to be a sociopath to get that much money in the first place, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So the other thing about this is that he already knows he wasn't the father of this child. So what's the whole point of any of this? This line of questioning that Novak is going down doesn't really seem like it should actually bear any fruit. And really, if you pay attention to what's happened in the courtroom
it doesn't.
She hasn't really accomplished anything. She shouldn't feel like she's going to get a guilty verdict because she hasn't proven anyone's guilt at all.
No, this is what I didn't understand. Like, I didn't really get why they were trying to hide the purchase of this El Salvadoran estate. I assume that, sure, they're trying to do it as quickly as possible, but it's not like the sort of thing you murder somebody over, you know?
Yeah, it's not this insane trade secret.
There was a lot that Novak needed to prove to make this conspiracy believable. And
she does none of this.
They don't even try. They don't even
She's incensed that she has not gotten... At the 27-minute mark, the jury comes back after a 9-day deadlock to deliver a mistrial by hung jury.
Well, there's another kind of awkward convo between the lawyer and Novak. This is where Novak's telling her that it's a done deal.
Yeah, that is a slam dunk. You've lost your case, all this bullshit. And it's like, she hasn't. She shouldn't have.
There's a double entendre kind of back and forth going on, where the lawyer says, I've seen CEOs who rape, their employee pension funds get better treatment than this. And Novak responds, you're the one who screwed your client. Which, I mean, the lawyer, I guess she's played as not knowing what she's doing in there. But again, she seems more professional than Casey Novak does in that courtroom proceeding.
You can almost always say that about Novak.
Yeah.
Novak basically lawyers her way off the show.
That's true.
She really screws the pooch.
She's definitely kind of like in the bottom tier, not the absolute bottom tier of SVU ADAs, but not the top.
No, she's no...
We can do a ranking of that at some point. It's got to, I mean, Cabot's got to be number one.
Cabot's number one with a bullet.
But I would say Barba is above Novak in my ranking. I have Graylick. Rock bottom, of course. Graylick is below the unnamed ADA played by Lisa Tharp from season 1.
So then we get our hung jury reveal. Novak's incredulous in the fucking courtroom as the jury's leaving. Novak sees court officer Lyon side-eye a juror on their way out of the courtroom and feels like something's amiss. Cue Fred Willard.
Hey, what happened?
R.I.P.
And then, oh my god, it's jury tampering. I don't fucking understand how anyone could think that this case, as presented to the viewer, was a slam dunk for Novak. 11-1?
Yeah, nothing about it. She had no evidence.
No evidence. It's all circumstantial shit. It's fucking nonsense. There's no goddamn way that she has proven their guilt.
A criminal conspiracy to commit murder from an email that says that they're thinking about buying a Salvadoran coffee estate? That's nothing. Oliver North is a free man, and he literally sold missiles to the Iranians to help fund Nicaraguan drug smuggling operations. And there's lots of documentation about that. And he goes on Fox News all the time.
My next note is, oh fuck, Alaric wanted to be a painter. Dad's a real dick daddy and had a PI surveilling PJ. PJ is over all this shit. Arrest my dad, then bring me my watercolors. The muses are singing.
Okay, let's talk about these PI photos because this was some more excellent second unit work. A private investigator is usually like in a car with a very long lens from a very long ways away to not get seen. These photos are all like the makeup is perfect, the lighting is perfect on both subjects.
We know the props department has a fucking telephoto lens because we saw it in the episode with...
The Finn episode Haunted. Yeah, we see the very large prop department.
His former handler, the rooftop perv taking down blousers, had that camera. It's a prop.
That was from episode 2, Hot Mike Sandoval
Yes.
comes in the back door, where we find out a lot about Finn's backstory and wish we could forget it right away. They come up with a reason why they can continue talking to the son, even though the trial's in a mistrial, because he was being stalked
By the PI,
by the private investigator. So he's a special victim under those rules. So that's what gives them cause to keep talking to him. And so this is when they go investigate the father, right? So we learn about the son being into painting at that point. And then they go over to the dad's, I guess, home office.
It looks like his home office, but then Avery Hemmings, who's probably a descendant of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson, Avery Hemmings pops in and shuts that shit down right away. Yeah. O'Halloran's holding that torch, just wanting to fucking dive in.
He's holding the cutting torch for so long. He dominates this episode, because this scene, he's in the background, and you cannot look at Hargitay in this scene. Like, she's talking to Stephen Collins' character, and you just cannot even see her. So he's not allowed to cut open the safe, which it wasn't abundantly clear what they were going to find in the safe. I guess more evidence about the private investigator. I didn't really have that written down. We get a fun callback to episode 1. Remember where we don't get to pick the Vic? Was what they were telling Olivia Benson. Well, in this one, Olivia tells Stabler that hustlers deserve justice too when they're talking about Jenna.
They go straight from the father's office with the safe back to the precinct, but the father's beaten them there.
I feel like I should have another New York State of Mind segment about this, because this makes no sense at all.
The presumption is that he actually took a chop.
But that doesn't make any sense at all, and I'll tell you why. Because when you take a chopper traffic in New York City is very limited. There's one heliport down in like...
Not for the coffee magnates.
Yeah, it's right by the financial district. If you've...
No, but I'm saying that they have free reign over helicopter traffic in New York and can do whatever the fuck they want.
They could just land their helicopter on the roof of a police precinct in Midtown somewhere?
People need coffee.
I've seen Succession. To ride in a helicopter in New York City, you need an army of black SUVs to take you to the heliport, which is right on the East River at the southern end of Manhattan. And apparently you can take I don't know if you can do Uber helicopters right now, but you could at one point.
Pops is at the precinct. He fingers the son. This shit's getting weird. Then Stabler he's on that multi-screen display watching the video of Jenna that she has taken, the one where she's doing the dress to kill thing.
Let's be honest here, Josh. So he had been looking at those girl-on-girl party pics from Cancun, and then when Benson walked in the door, he just clicked
he switched over. Yeah. So he's watching the video again and realizes that, oh fuck, this was made in her apartment, so there should be a camera, and no camera came in via evidence. Then O'Halloran, Stabler, and Benson go back to the burned out husk of an apartment again.
Yeah, third time.
They go back. There's a camera in the walls.
Yeah, they find a camera in the wall, and they find 2 SD cards.
Yeah, one in the coffee can and then one in the camera. So they bring the camera back to the precinct, bring the father, son, and lawyers in. The lawyer who's been representing the father at this point is Hargitay's real-life husband, Peter Herman.
Yeah.
He's the most noticeable defense attorney on the show.
Yeah, he's one of like the 3 defense attorneys that's always on.
Right.
Yeah, he's on a ton.
He's on that show younger. Mm-hmm. So the payoff was really to keep the sex tape of the father and son's fiance quiet. Mm-hmm. So that $10,000 payment that was recurring, that was about the sex tape. She'd been blackmailing Pops.
How much longer than necessary did they leave that sex tape with Stephen Collins on?
Oh, yeah, way too long.
We see an unnecessary shot.
It gets way too much screen time. It's really disturbing.
It's really sick, because, again, this woman is presumably younger than his son, and she's reverse cowgirling this guy for quite a long time.
Yeah. So at this point, then, Novak thinks she's got a real grasp of the chessboard here.
But she still doesn't.
Oh, she really does not. Avery Hemmings is incensed that they're going to show the video, Michelle Borth, and she fucking storms off.
Now, one thing I don't think we've been covering so far in our rundown of this is Avery Hemmings has been awkward throughout the whole episode. There's a way that SVU defense attorneys act, and this is not it.
But that's also explicable in that she isn't actually a defense attorney.
Yeah.
She's like a white-collar corporate attorney, and so this is sort of out of her wheelhouse. So some of her behavior is at least theoretically defensible defensible using that caveat.
But would the writers of the show have written in a non-defense attorney defense attorney if there wasn't a big reveal coming?
So Novak thinks she's mapped out everything. She's really got this under control. And then she says all the exits are manned and they're preparing to arrest the real perp, who is the fucking lawyer. Mm-hmm. The video shows that the lawyer comes in and calls Jenna, what, a whore.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other stuff.
Jenna turns around.
It's the fucking lawyer. I probably saw this episode over 10 years ago, but I had absolutely forgotten that it was a lawyer.
Yeah, I was...
Like, nowhere in my memory did I remember that it was a lawyer.
For me, it was the whole time, it was like, what's up with this lawyer? This is strange. And then she's like, I don't have to watch this. And then she walks in and I went, oh my God.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, fuck, it's her. What?
Which calls into question so many things about the whole episode that we will get to in just a moment. But we gotta cover this last scene.
Yeah. So this last scene, Novak thinks she's got this shit all covered. Then the alarm starts sounding. Cut to POV shot from the rooftop. Novak, you didn't have this covered at all because Avery Hemmings is standing at the edge of the roof ready to hurl herself onto an unlucky passerby on the sidewalk below. She paid off the juror. She loved PJ. Does anyone other than PJ try to talk her off the ledge?
Nope. Do the police officers that are trained in this try to talk her down? Not really.
Nope. Nope. It's just PJ. This is an opportunity for quality time between PJ and Avery. Happens to be the last chance for this, actually, because as Avery and PJ hug, she makes sure Pops isn't going to hurt PJ again, defying all laws of physics, and pulls him over with her, landing on a cruiser 10 stories below in the most shocking fucking ending I can remember in this series' long history.
So good. I was stunned.
It is fucking insane.
I was hooting when this happened.
It's so crazy.
I was screaming.
I was laughing so hard. I cackled for like 5 minutes at the end of this episode. I couldn't fucking believe it. I've seen this episode before. It's been a long time, but it's pretty rare for me to be shocked by an episode of SVU.
Shocking conclusion.
Oh, my God.
So there's a few things going on that we need to unpack with this scene. So the lawyer is dressed in lawyer attire. She's got like a pencil skirt and high heels, and she's standing up on this thin ledge, teetering. And so there's this, like, you think she's going to fall a couple times because it looks she's teetering on her stiletto heels. But then somehow she is able to pull PJ, who is comfortably 30% bigger than her in all directions.
At least. I mean, seriously, he's probably like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, she's like 110 pounds.
She weighs maybe 120 if she's like 5'7" or 8.
Yeah.
She is not a big person.
She appears like she is a very small person, and she's very thin, and she's wearing high heels, and she's standing on a ledge that is about 4 inches wide, and she's able to pull, a guy who's 6 foot tall and easily like 180. I mean, the dude is, he's
easily
built. He's athletic build. Mm-hmm. He pulls him up and over a 2-foot wall, and then they tumble to their deaths, and there's this fully unnecessary shot of them.
No, it's fully necessary. Fully necessary.
Shot.
All of these shots are fully necessary. The shot of them on the top of the cruiser, basically looking like
they're holding hands, and their faces are like turned up in like a smile, like again a kind of rictus a la that very much called back the Michael Keaton Batman film when Jack Nicholson as the Joker dies in similar fashion. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Her face was very much Joker-fied in that.
Jesus Christ. It's so rare to be as shocked as I was by this ending. It was so joyous to see something this insane.
When have you ever seen SVU do a mid-fall shot? You know, it's like...
Never.
It was like Alan Rickman in Die Hard, you know?
Oh, God damn it. It's so good. All right. So then you wanted to go back and rehash like how she could have done it because
No.
This recontextualizes the whole episode, or?
So it recontextualizes the crime. The crime, okay, so she beats her over the head and then sets fire to the apartment to try to hide her tracks.
And she also pre-cuts the torn clothing to make it look like a sexual assault rather than...
This is where I have a problem. So she's trying to double hide the crime. Because I would think most people in a fit of passion would just try the one thing, which would be to either probably to set the place on fire. That's a classic one to do, right? You find the sterno can, this is how you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. Who besides SVU writers stages a rape like that? I mean, that requires requires quite a bit of forethought and really quite a bit of time to like think, okay, how am I going to rip these to make it look right? I'm going to pull her panties down and stage them dangling on her feet just so that when they find them, they won't be burned up in the fire like I would think the panties would be.
Well, I mean, she was obsessed with PJ, though, so she might want to be comparing and contrasting what she's got going on downstairs to what Jenna had going on downstairs.
I'm just saying that it's only in the demented minds of an SVU writer that you would make a fit of passion female murderer stage a rape to try to get away with it.
Yeah.
Outstanding stuff. Really just outstanding shit all around.
Fucking hell, this episode's so fantastic.
Multiple times when I was screaming, whether it was about like the way that Stephen Collins was holding the paper coffee cup when he's describing the aroma of the shitty station house coffee to munch, or the mid-flight falling shot. I mean, just great stuff. So really quick, because we are going very long on this.
Yeah, we're going very long on this because there's so much to talk about.
We were going to do a beach thing, and we were going to do a thing about coffee. I'll do the coffee real quick.
I can do beach real fast too.
Okay, so the thing about the coffee trade is coffee is the second most abundantly traded commodity on the planet, next to only oil. Now, it is traded like that because the price of it is so volatile. It's not because a coffee plantation in and of itself is such a lucrative entity. And coffee traders, they're basically trading on derivatives. They're trading on whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down. And you're doing tons of volume trades, and it's going up and down. And there's lots of factors that govern this. The biggest one being weather in Brazil, because Brazil is the dominant country in the coffee trade. Now, they mention Arabica beans a bunch, and yes, Arabica is the primary variety of coffee beans. There's two that are drunk most commonly. You have Arabica and you have Robusto. Robusto's typically, it does affect the coffee exchange rates because it is used in cheap coffee, so what you get in your gas station or your station house often has Robusto in it, but the fancy coffee you get at the third wave coffee house is typically going to be an Arabica bean. Now, there are a million different flavors of Arabica coffee, and these are governed by, there are varietals, so there are strains of them. Coffee is like dogs.
Or like grapes for wine.
Yeah, grapes for wine. It's the same species, but because it is grown in different places and has been bred for different characteristics.
The soil and climate can wildly affect the beans.
But even, so varieties in Arabica beans can affect it dramatically too. There's a million of them. And so you'll have like...
pea berries.
Yeah, and you'll have these, I have a million listed. So, I mean, a million different varieties of Arabica beans. Blue Mountain, Bourbon, Catamore, Caturra. These are all different strains of Arabica that then do well in different climates. And now climate and terroir, being the soil it's grown in, have the most effect on a coffee climate. So whether it's in the highlands, whether it's in the lowlands, the amount of rain it gets, how acidic the soil is, things like this have massive influences on it. Biggest thing is actually weather in Brazil for coffee prices, though. One thing that's believable about it is that the plane is in Brazil in June, which is when they would actually be seeing how the crop was going to be. That's when the crop is being harvested, is in June in Brazil. And if it's going to be a good crop, that's when you know it, because the freezes will start setting in shortly after that. It grows year round. It's not replanted. But the main problem I have with the coffee exchange business is that these guys are not the ones who are actually judging the flavor of the coffee. They might be inspecting the green beans, or they probably more likely would have an expert who would inspect the green beans and tell them if they were exchange worthy or not. But they're not actually sampling the coffee. Also, his antique cupping spoon looked pretty new to me. It looked like it was made out of stainless steel and just got purchased, but whatever.
Yeah, it basically looks like it was one of those Guinness spoons to keep the pour stratified.
But again, there's a million things that affect the flavor of coffee, and a million things that affect the flavor of the coffee that you pour out of whatever machine you're using to make your coffee. And this show, while it does know what Arabica means, and it does know that El Salvador and Brazil are coffee growing regions,
they're just pulling buzzwords out of a fucking hat.
Yeah, and these guys also, there's no business in them buying a coffee plantation.
No.
That's not what these guys are doing on the exchange. The New York Exchange is a big coffee exchange, but they're trading on whether the price is going up or down based on the weather in Brazil.
Right.
They're not actually buying giant bags of coffee and selling them to roasters in the United States. That's not what they're doing. That's sort of my main bit for that. And then the helicopter thing, those are the two kind of New York things that go into it, because it's actually the International Commodity Exchange. It's one of the two really big commodities exchange in the U.S., with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange being the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to go on a big Chester Lake rundown?
I'll do a really quick one, just so people know who he is, because he is going to pop back up. We are going to hit season 9 episodes again. So Chester Lake, for those of you putting eyes on Adam Beach and SVU for the first time, he is of the Mohawk Nation. He comes from 3 generations of iron workers, but grew up in the foster care system. He was on the verge of becoming a pro MMA fighter, but for a torn ACL. He transferred to Manhattan SVU from Brooklyn SVU, first appearing at the end of season 8 and then joining the main cast for season 9. He was obsessed with his first case that he was never able to crack, and is a member of the VDOC Society out of Philadelphia, who work cold cases free of politics or bosses to get justice for the victims. He ends up going after a dirty NYPD officer, which leads to his exit from the show in a pretty shocking fashion, but he does mete out justice. So that's a quick bit. He's pretty awesome. I really like Adam Beach in general.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. He's been in some fun stuff. He was star in Wind Talkers.
Co-lead with Nicolas Cage. He was in Juanita, which was Clark Johnson directed a Netflix movie last year, which is actually delightful.
He was in Skinwalkers, the PBS miniseries and film from 2002, which was really good. Kind of low production values, but it's a really fun show.
Very low production values.
Very fun show. It
is enjoyable.
You know, it's a Tony Hillerman novel that was based on, and I think it's great.
He was just in Suicide Squad, but I'm not going to watch that.
He was in Joe Dirt 2, Beautiful Loser, which I really want to watch. I was not aware there was one.
It was for Crackle. So should we get to rating this episode?
Yeah, let's just rate this thing. I feel like we could go really deep into Adam Beach and more into commodities exchanges, but we got some business to attend to. So every week we do a rating of the episode that we've watched to kind of see how it fits into the rest of the series. And we do it on 4 different criteria, and we create a composite score from that. We do a 1 through 10 judge of each one of these things. So we do quality, the guests involved, how problematic it was, and how deeply and how broadly the lives involved in the show were ruined. You're getting high marks for problematic. You're getting high marks for ruining lots of lives very deeply. Let's start off with the quality of it. How do you even begin to rank this one? Because it's so much fun.
This one's so crazy. This one's so much fun.
But I don't know if it's good. You know?
It doesn't matter. When was the last time you watched an episode of anything that made you just fucking lose your shit at the end of it and not be able to stop laughing?
Yeah, because like Hooked, the episode that featured Hayden Panettiere, it did not have that ending. I mean, it had outrageous shit going on throughout the whole episode that had me screaming, but not like this, where this just like literal falling off of a building.
Well, getting pulled off of a building by someone much smaller than you.
Much smaller than you, who had no like way to leverage him. You know, it's one thing if it was like
there's no
jiu-jitsu
like physics
move.
doesn't make sense. Nope. I honestly, my inclination is to say this is a 10.
I don't know.
It's so fucking nuts.
It's so fucking nuts. I don't know.
It's very high. It's very, like, if you think about, we were, 19 episodes in? What episode have we watched that you think is inarguably better than this for why we watch this show?
I mean, the
Hooked is very, very
Hooked
good.
is right up there. Also, so was Ridicule from season 3.
Yeah, but Ridicule's not this crazy.
Ridicule isn't this crazy. It has some fun shit, but yeah, this is bonkers. So, okay, we're gonna go there.
It's gonna get dinged by other stuff anyway.
It is gonna get dinged by other stuff, and it is like so enjoyable. It's just
holy shit.
It is so much fun. Now, I think it's gonna get high marks in the next one too. It's interesting. So, I mean, the guest performances are all a lot of fun. I can't give this one a 10 because it is not.
No.
It doesn't have the mind-melting nature that like Ridicule had.
Or that the last one had.
Yeah, the last one had that, and then which one was that? That was Underbelly.
Yeah, Underbelly with Michael K. Williams and...
Yeah, it had total mind-melting shit going on.
It didn't have that, but holy shit. I'd still say it's got to be at least like a 7 or 8.
Let's call it a 7, because the last one was a 7, and Michael K. Williams was amazing in it, and I don't know that...
But he was misspent. This storyline should have been for Michael K.
Yeah, it's true.
He should have
been the coffee trader.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could go 8 on this, if I think about it, because they do a lot.
There's a lot more reliant upon the guests.
Yeah.
And O'Halloran gets a lot to do in this one.
O'Halloran gets so much to do, and that's fun.
He's still basically a guest star.
That's fun. You know, whatever, Matthew Davis.
Heaven Moskowitz?
Yeah, Heaven Moskowitz is amazing. What's his name? The fire inspector, also amazing.
Yeah.
Eddie Brincato.
No, this is like top to bottom. Even like Michelle Borth is pretty fucking good.
Michelle Borth is great. Matthew Davis is kind of a dud, but I mean, he is what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's what that character is supposed to be.
And he does throw that just outrageous punch, which is a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
And Collins is...
And then he's beside himself wanting to be a painter.
Yeah.
Buy that. He wants to get his brushes out.
I call it an 8.
Work out some shit.
I'll call it an 8. If we think of all of these different parts adding up to one Hayden Panettiere, I think it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it works there. Now, it kind of gets dinged in these other two a little bit. Was it that problematic? Not really. I mean, the way they cover coffee is highly problematic.
So the way they cover coffee is problematic. The father-son shit is all fucked up.
The father-son shit is super fucked up.
Super fucked up.
Having the woman murderer stage a rape is somewhat problematic.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. Not getting to have that torch cut through that safe is problematic.
I know, poor O'Halloran. He really wanted to do it. You just he looks like my dog when I'm about to feed him dinner. He's like, can I?
There's also the slut-shaming that goes on throughout the episode that's problematic.
A lot of slut-shaming.
Yeah, a lot of slut-shaming. There's more than I think you're giving this episode credit for in the problematic areas.
Okay. It's not a 10. Definitely not a 10.
No, it's not a 10, but it's like a 7.
Okay, I can call it a 7. And then, honestly, how badly were these people's lives ruined? Sure, we have 3 people dead as a result of this episode.
The son shouldn't be dead. Jenna shouldn't be dead. Neither of them should be dead. Neither of them have done anything to have deserved death.
Yeah.
The son's primary crime is that he was born to that father.
Honestly, I know we don't get to pick the Vic, Josh, but none of these people were that likable. The lawyer is the most likable one.
I kind of like Jenna. You kind
of like Jenna? Yeah, you learned so much about her.
Yeah.
Again, you think they would have given her like a few lines so she could get a higher rate? Because they made her do quite a bit in those Cancun photos. She definitely had to act.
She was white, so she got to do more than Chantal did in the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. I'm giving this one a 5. I'm not going over a 5.
No, I think it's probably a 4.
Okay, I'm fine with 4. I like 4 because, people's lives do get ruined. That's inarguable. But this isn't...
There are 2 innocents who die. Jenna and the son, PJ.
Well, Jenna is a hustler. I mean, she's screwing people over left and right. She's definitely in the game.
Yeah, but she's screwing over people who should be getting screwed over.
In the words of Michael K. Williams, she knows how the game's played. She knows what's going on. Yeah, those people might deserve to get screwed over, but do the crime, do the time.
But the time isn't death.
That's true. But you are messing with powerful forces.
It wasn't someone she actually wronged doing the deed. It was the lawyer.
But she did. The lawyer was in love with PJ.
Yeah, sorry. That's like some weird borderline incel shit.
Yeah, it was. That lawyer was pretty crazy. So what, we're going to say 4 for this one?
4, yeah.
Okay, let me see where that spits out for us. That gives us a 7.25. I buy it.
Yeah.
That puts it right in line with Hunting Ground.
That was a good one.
Which was a good one. It was a good Amaro episode.
A Long Island serial killer one.
That was a fun one. Still, kind of in the second tier.
Yeah, still below Ridicule, still below Hooked,
Hooked
obviously.
and Ridicule were way up there. Basically, the only other one that's up there, we also have Juvenile was up there.
Yeah, Juvenile's really good.
Yeah, Juvenile's really good. I think we're at the point where we can roll the next episode and just put this one to bed.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I am pressing the buttons right now.
Oh, I hate that part.
And it is giving me 349.
Glasgowman's Wrath?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah.
All right, so looking it up.
It is from season 16, episode 6. This is season 16 is the last season featuring Danny Pino as Nick Amaro.
What the fuck? Okay, this one is described on Law & Order Fandom Wiki as a babysitter's ghost stories become reality when 2 young girls go missing and another is found stabbed.
Outstanding.
What in the fuck? All right, so looking to see if there are notable guest stars. No. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so this is ripped from the headlines.
Okay.
It is based on the Slender Man shit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And listener of the podcast, Chad Trudgeon's backyard.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a ripped from the headline Slender Man one, so it should be fun.
I can't wait. Looking forward to the supernatural that the SVU writers give us. All right, Josh, I think we can call it there and come back next week. I'll keep my fingers crossed. I really am not going to hold out very high hopes for this one, though.
Yeah, it's weird enough, though, that
it could be fun.
We'll see.
It totally could be totally fun.
I don't think there's any way it's going to be as fun as this one.
Well, we'll see. There's always hope. But until then, munch my Benson.
And munch my Benson.
Because I think once you mention murder, Richie Rich and Daddy Starbucks out there are going to lawyer up.
This stuff is so vile, we won't even trade it on the exchange.
You know, I took a coffee appreciation course at the Learning Annex, and it turned out it was just a bunch of barista wannabes.
Yeah, those national chains have ruined the American palate for coffee.
Can I ask you a question? How do you make a good cup of joe?
Well, it starts with the right water-to-bean ratio. You can't rush the process.